All right, hello, fuckers. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Tantris podcast number 3, and I got as guest a good old friend. His name's Devin, and he's gonna tell you about his life. Devin.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yes.
Tell us a little about yourself.
Well, fuck.
Well, wait, that's a horrible question. Hold on. Let me rephrase that. Tell me a little bit about where you live and a little about your personality.
Right. God, I plead the fifth on the last one. So, all right. Well, I live in the fucking herpy store of New England called Rhode Island. Yeah. I mean, well, let's face it, man. I mean, fucking Maine is America's dick. It's just a droopy fucking I don't care if you got fans in Maine. It's just an uncircumcised, excuse me, like penis head. And then Rhode Island is like the herpes sore that's like on the taint. If you look at the map of America, that little shit. Yeah, that's me. I'm there.
Christ, dude. I feel like you're taking this from something else.
I am actually the whole main thing. That's fucking Patton Oswalt. All your fans tell your fans to look him up. He's a great comedian.
Yeah, I mean, I'll Patton Oswalt. Wait, isn't that the guy who just apologized for taking a photo with Dave Chappelle the other day?
I didn't hear about that. That's interesting.
Yeah, like you can't talk about Dave Chappelle anymore without being canceled. But it's all right. I'm already canceled, so I need to worry about that. But,
oh, Christ.
Okay, so the reason I actually wanted to have you on the podcast, though, is obviously I like to have my friends, but there are some people who just don't have a flow to the way that they speak. And the people that I talk to on the channel, I don't know if you've been keeping up with it too much, they're kind of dejected young dudes that are kind of your age, my age. And I think about your lifestyle, how you're working at a factory, how you don't give a fuck, you just kind of accept life for the shit that it actually is, and you kind of embody that acceptance for me. And I think if people heard about your life and your experiences a little bit, maybe they'd relate to you a little bit, maybe they'd find some of your opinions hilarious or comforting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you watch Fight Club way too many times.
So you like Fight Club?
I most certainly do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, what is it about that movie that you love?
What was that?
What is it about Fight Club that you love? What do you like about that movie?
Well, basically the overall theme of stoicism is basically it's the perfect way to live.
Perfect way to live.
Yeah, nothing like living in a shit down fucking house and banging Helena Bottom Carter and making soap. That's my dream life right there.
Aren't you living kind of in a shithole house right now?
I mean, well, yeah, college housing. Yeah.
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 Look, I don't mean to insult you. I mean, I'm about to enter that world myself. So
I fucking do it every day to myself.
You just accept that. You wear it on your sleeve. That's I don't know, because you know who Wojak is, Devin?
No, actually I don't.
Okay, do you know who Feels Guy is? It's always that poorly drawn Microsoft Paint drawing, and it's the guy with the beanie, and he's always smoking a cigarette.
Oh, the Doomer meme or whatever.
The Doomer meme, yeah. It's
yeah.
Well, because you were always wearing a black beanie, you got a little bit of scruff, and you're smoking a cigarette with a leather jacket. You're you may not try, but I think of your image, and I'm like, oh, Doomer, Devin.
Oh, Christ. The world's going to end. Might as well, dicks out and fucking look at the mushroom cloud and say, I need a tan on that.
What the fuck? The way you phrase things, man. Do you consider yourself a doomer, or are you just being sarcastic?
Wait, do I consider myself what?
Do you consider yourself a doomer? Do you have a doomer mindset at all?
I don't know. Actually, that's a very philosophical question that I could go into, because there's times where I kind of look at the way how the world is and stuff like that. And, even in the fucking my own music scene or something, and it's kind of well, fuck. But then at the same time, every now and then you'll get a weird kind of reminder where it's oh, okay, all right. It gives me a little bit of hope and shit, because there's obviously there's a lot of shitty people out there, but then you'll fucking meet some really good people, and it's oh, all right, I could fucking bond with us. And that's how we fucking started romping South fucking 2 years ago. So
yes, that's right. I mean, that is how we started romping South. But over Craigslist, we were the Craigslist band for a period of time.
Over Craigslist, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is the fucking weirdest thing.
But 20, because I when I think about 2020 and like the first 2 months of it, I think about you, Axel, and Lana, and how we were always going to James' shitty garage. Just, well, sorry, James, but just jamming out, and things were really looking up at that time, and then everything just exploded. We just talked about that like off podcast, but like I haven't talked to you since, and it seems like your life has changed drastically. You think that have you like changed your mindset on life at all since everything's kind of gone to shit? You feel more stoic now than you did before?
In kind of in like a mix between a positive and a negative way, if that makes any sense. Because like, I don't know, I try to keep a good PMA. That'll definitely get you through life and stuff like that. Give yourself fucking goals and whatnot. And like I said, you remain guarded, but at the same time, like you go. How the fuck do I phrase this? Like, I purposely don't really set high expectations in like really over celebrating something, if that makes any sense. Because basically, like one of the best quotes of a fucking stoic is, remember you're going to die. So, and again, this is where the fucking, weird philosophical, like almost doomer thing comes in, is that, like, okay, this is the life I live. One day I'll die. I'll make the best of it or something like that, and just do weird out of place shit, which is, was always my philosophy. So yeah, and I guess to answer the question, then yeah, no, nothing really changed in my philosophy, because I still will just do out of place weird shit because I think it's funny, and and I go for shock value, and that's the world really lacks that nowadays, because everything's really safe and fucking like, well, it's safe and not safe, if that makes sense, but like. Humor and stuff, but like when it comes to like the classics of humor, it's all fucking shock value and stuff, and that's what really gets people going and stuff. Because when you don't see it coming, then it's like, oh, holy shit! And people are afraid to really get out of their comfort zone. And growing up, I did experience like say a lot of social anxiety, but then it just took one day where I finally like looked in the mirror and I was like, you know what? I don't fucking care how I look. I don't care how I act. It's like I only give a shit about how I feel about how the way I do things, and it's like, oh, fuck it. And then that became my philosophy. And sure enough, actually, that kind of benefits you in the end, because then it's like, people see that, and it doesn't. It could be like perceived as like a kind of confident thing, but it's not even necessarily confidence. It's more just knowing that like it doesn't really matter how I act. It's more just I don't know. You fucking. I could go outside and fucking take a shit on the sidewalk, and if no one catches me, obviously I'm not in a fucking back of a cop car with handcuffs. But then, hey, fuck it. The next day I'm gonna wake up and eat my Wheaties just like I did the other day. So who cares? Does that make any sense?
Your philosophy on life really is Tyler Durden-esque, though, man. Like you rock when you hit rock bottom, the only way is up.
Exactly.
But when you say that everything is like too soft, okay, so like a lot of the people who are watching this right now are gonna be like younger guys, and you're talking about like take college for example. You know how like college gets a bad rep for being too soft now, and like men are dropping out at like alarming rates. And then like I think about you, and you just kind of look at the shit of life, and you embrace it, and you don't really want people to censor anything for you, because you're good at accepting that things are shit, and you're always able to turn a negative into a positive, like a true stoic would. But I think there are a lot of people on this channel who decided not to go to college themselves because they felt like, I don't know, the institutions are too soft, that they're like there's nothing really interesting about them. Like how did you why didn't you end up going to like higher learning and instead choose the lifestyle that you do? Because I think that you're kind of a badass about it. You don't give a fuck. You live your life. You don't mind that things are pretty dreadful a lot of the time, but you keep that smile on your face and you're charismatic Devin. Like how do you do that?
Well, which is kind of ironic, because when I was 18, the original plan was actually to like go basically right to college and stuff. Because when I graduated, and I remember I was staying at my dad's basically full time, because I ended up getting a job at this glass company down in Newport. I remember I didn't go to my graduation because I was like, and everyone was making such a big deal. It's like, oh, you get to wear a cap and gown, walk the stage, and get the diploma and stuff. But I like everyone hyped it up so much, and I just kind of thought like, this is gonna last like an hour. You know, it's kind of like after your 21st birthday or something like that. Then birthdays don't really matter because it's like, it's just another day. I'm a year older, but I don't really feel different at all. It's who the fuck cares, you know? Because that's the thing too, is that like once I graduated high school and stuff, and I did end up going to CCRI in the fall of when I was 18, and I went for like a semester, and like, you know, I ended up, because originally I was like going to go into law and stuff like that, and then that ended up just being like way too fucking depressing. So a little tip of advice to anyone watching, if they want to go into law, I mean, just get ready for like a fuckload of, wow, this is a fucking bummer to learn about.
Yeah. You going into law, man? I can't think about, because like when you go into law, you got to be a really disagreeable type who loves to argue. You never strike me as like the kind of guy who wants to argue with people for argument's sake.
Well, the original part of that was because like I had the mentality of like, you know, the fucking, oh, fuck things up from the inside in the system. You know what I mean? Yeah. Basically, because obviously, I mean, fucking growing up listening to fucking hardcore and, you know, punk and stuff like that, it's always anti-establishment and stuff. And what better way to do that than fucking, I guess, have a living for myself than going into the system as a lawyer and then just purposely pissing off, you know, high-class judges and shit like that. It's always, you know, I mean, granted, you got to wear a suit and tie for it, but like, hey, you're still a pain in the ass. You know what I mean? That's, and I've come to which, you know, I'll double back on this part, but like, I've come to the philosophy now where it's just like being you know, kind of a smart ass and a dick, but only to the right, in quotations, wrong people, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The people who really deserve it. You know what I mean? Because like when you get what you give, you live the life by the, what's it called? Yeah, the golden rule, whatever. And like, you know, that's just how the things will flow now.
The golden rule? What do you mean by the golden rule? What goes around comes around? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, pretty much. You know, treat on others as you know you want to be treated. But the thing is like, well, I used to do that, you know, growing up, because when I was a kid, you know, growing up, I had fucking just wicked different religious backgrounds on like a whole bunch of sides. You know, like on my mom's dad's, you know, there was you know, my grandfather, that was like his descendants were Jewish, but then my mom's mother was, you know, Catholic, so I was mainly raised Catholic through him. So I went to a Catholic school, and I did try to like, you know, treat others there how like I wanted to be treated, but I never got that, no matter how nice I was. So then finally I was like, okay, fuck it. You know, now everyone's mask really comes off or something like that, especially to what the point was going to be for this is that once you get out of high school and stuff like that, then you really start to see the truth of like, oh, okay, you know, that's how you really are. Because then, you know, because that's the thing about with school, like when you're younger, especially, you know, before college and stuff, because when you go to college, it's really the choice to go to it. And originally, you know, that's what I chose to do. I wanted to go to college and go that route. But you know, when you're in high school, though, you don't really have much of a choice, because then, you know, you're in your parents' rule because you're quote unquote not an adult even when you're 18, so to speak. So you kind of have the facade of, you know, okay, here's my fucking structured schedule. You know, you wake up, all right, you eat breakfast, you fuck off to school, you learn, quote unquote. Right. You go back home and fuck, rinse, repeat. You know, that's basically every day. Right. And you go to college, and that's basically it, but on a different scale, where it's like, okay, I'm taking night classes, so I'll be up until like 3 a.m. this time, wake up fucking midday, maybe eat breakfast, you know, and obviously, you know, people out there who are young adults or something like that kind of notices that, you know, your appetite or something will obviously be different. Like, I couldn't tell you the last time I ate, honestly, 3 meals in a day. Like, it's usually just fucking one day or something. I'm probably going off topic with that, but like, it just kind of goes to show how, when you get into the adult world, how things really change a lot. So you got to learn how to really cope with it, which goes to show on how having that kind of stoic mentality of really, like, I wouldn't say it's not giving a shit, because in a way, like, obviously I'm not going to go down the street and just randomly, like, you know, fucking deck someone in the face just for no sake of it. You know what I mean? I give a shit to the point where it's like, okay, obviously this person doesn't deserve to be treated like shit, so I'm not going to do it. You know what I mean? That's the goes around, comes around thing. But at the same time, you can tell someone's being kind of a pompous cunt, you know, then it's kind of like, okay, fuck you. I'm going to fuck with you. All you have to do is not react, basically. Otherwise, I'm going to fuck with you and have a smile on my face the whole time, get a rise of them. And it's like, all right, you just totally proved my point that, like, now you got a fucking power struggle problem, and you're going to try to, you know, project your insecurities on me. And all I'm doing is literally smiling. And basically all I have to do is just a simple little thing that I know can get under your skin. You know what I mean? Which, again, going back to, like, you know, why I got into fucking punk was that was the whole mentality of it was, you know, purposely pissing off the fucking people who it's like, all right, 9 to 5, you know, this is the way how you have to live. It's like, well, I don't want to live that way, and other people don't want to live that way, so fuck it, I'm not going to live that way. I'm going to live my own way. Mm-hmm. What was I going with? Back to what we were saying before, so I went to college the first semester when I was 18 in the fall of that year. And then when that semester ended, though, I ended up getting kicked out of my house, and I didn't really have a choice to, like, because I couldn't really afford to go back to school. I was kind of on my own. Right. So I had to go get a job and basically worked full time, stayed in, like, a place. And it wasn't like an apartment. It was like a room for rent, you know, and basically lived there, ended up moving a lot. Like, I couldn't tell you how many times I've been out on my own for, I think about 7 years now. And I can't tell you how many places I've fucking lived since then, you know. I mean, I think the longest one I lived was in North Kingston, which was like 2 years, but that was a fucking shithole. Mm-hmm. It got to the point where, because I kept telling myself when I was, like, still 19 and even into, like, 20, I was like, all right, I'm going to fucking get my shit together. I'm going to go back to school. But then it gets to the point where it's like, you don't necessarily have to do these things that are so, like, hyped up to be. Like, would I go back to school now or soon or something like that? Possibly, but I'm not going to go on, you know, the fact of, like, oh, you have to hold a gun to your head. You got to fucking learn A through Z from what these professors who already went through this shit and, you know, fucking spewing what the cycle is from what they learned, from people who spewed from what they learned, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to go on my own dime, on my own fucking time, and I'm going to be like, all right, I want to go because I really actually want to learn this rather than I have to learn it. You know what I mean? And that's honestly what life should be about. It should be about, you know, you want to go to school because you want to go to school. You shouldn't have to go to school because you have to go to school and you think that's how you're going to live. Because some people, they don't function with, like, academics. Like, you know, I mean, not to toot my own horn, but, like, when I was in school, like, you know, I wasn't really a stupid kid. Like, you know, like, I actually enjoyed, like, learning mathematics and stuff like that. And, you know, and even history I got into and stuff. But the reason why I ended up doing, like, really poor in high school and stuff is because I just didn't give a shit. I was just kind of like, you know, I'm kind of forced to be here, so it's like it makes me not want to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, what were we gonna say?
No, I was gonna say, like, I remember somebody telling me that if they were stuck in a class, like, even at the age of, like, you know, 30 or 40, if they were stuck in a class and they had to sit in a desk for, like, 4 or 5 hours, they would probably misbehave too, because nobody wants to do that shit. Like, it's hard to focus on,
Yeah, exactly. You know, and like I said, you know, you only got the one life, and, you know, and you just make the most of it and enjoy it. You know what I mean? You shouldn't have any. You really, and I know this is going to almost sound cliche, but you really shouldn't have any regrets. Even, like, the things that you do that you can look back and say, "Oh, I did fuck up," because I can say that too. You know, I mean, I fucked up after high school. I ended up doing some drugs I shouldn't have done. I shouldn't have, you know. I mean, I basically fucking had gotten into big fights with my parents, which led me to get kicked out and everything, and stuff like that.
Right.
And, you know, it asked me a few years ago if I regret it. I probably would have said yeah, but now it's kind of like, well, no, because now I look at, you know, where I am now, where I'm headed or something like that, and I'm kind of like, well, you know what? No, I shouldn't have any regrets because it made me who I am today, and, you know, who I am today is a lot wiser than I was fucking yesterday. You know, it got to the point where just over time that I had to learn on my own, where, like, I think the biggest probably the biggest like aha moment for me was one day I was just kind of sitting down. I was just driving, and I was either driving or sitting down. I can't remember when. It was just monotonous. Nothing was really going on. And then I just thought, and I was like, holy shit, my parents can be wrong, because I remember just growing up, whenever I got into like a fight with my parents, they were so stubborn about it, where like whenever they were about to like be shown in like almost physical evidence, which probably was the reason why I wanted to get in the law in the first place when I was 18, you know, now that I think about it, is that like whenever they were just about to lose the argument, and they were just about to like be given that like solid evidence where it's like, oh fuck, I'm wrong, they'd shut it down. Mm-hmm. So I always thought they were right, because it just, the argument would always end
right,
like
because
that.
They were in a power of authority.
It was never like, you know, fucking presented. So I was like, and one day I found out, I was like, oh fuck yeah, they can definitely be wrong. And I was like, yeah, they're fucking human beings. What the hell? You know, all of us can be wrong. I can be fucking wrong any day, almost every day probably.
Right.
I mean, right now, you know, and again, don't have a fucking single college degree. In the place where I'm working right now, I ended up going from you know, just a simple like assembly job in this manufacturing building, and now I'm working at night, and I volunteered to be the night shift supervisor. And I mean, I only get a few people on my crew right now, but now I'm supervising the crew. Didn't have a single fucking, I mean, I have like a couple college credits for my first semester at CCRI, but I don't have a diploma, you know, and then I'm able to fucking basically afford a lot more than I was when I fucking first got kicked out, you know what I mean?
I feel like we all have like this existential problem, like, you know, young people nowadays, especially like, I don't know how you feel about it, like me talking about the demographic of young men. Some people get really uncomfortable with that, but the other question I was going to ask you is, like, do you ever feel left behind, you know, like you as a young dude? Do you feel like, you know, just because you're a young dude, nobody gives a shit about you, or do you feel like that's kind of like an exaggeration? How do you feel about your place in greater society? Do you feel like at all cared about, or do you kind of see what I'm getting at?
Oh, absolutely, actually, because like, as a matter of fact, one of another coworker of mine, good buddy of mine, who's actually in I think he's in like the shipping department, basically. He when I still had Facebook, he started a group that was basically really focused on like male mental health, because honestly, it's something that's really not taken seriously, which is really sad. You know, I mean, like being, especially with a young man, like, you know, it's just and it's weird because it's almost a mix between, and not to get all like talk about politics and stuff like that, but it's almost the dead center of, you know, being a gun hold at you from both like kind of the conservative kind of belief of, oh, you're a man, you're not supposed to be depressed, and also, you know, on the liberal side, it's like, well, you're, you know, a male or something, so you kind of matter less, as opposed to, you know, just trying to, you know, equalize someone or so, you know, fucking.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to get at?
No, I think I see what you're trying to say, because like that's a common theme that I actually bring up on the channel. Is like, when you're a dude, you really just have to accept that you don't fucking matter, or at least society like just does not care about you as much as women and children. And like, yeah, that's a really difficult thing to describe to people who don't have to deal with that firsthand. And it's never, because like, you know, I think most guys are just terrible about talking about their mental health, like depression or anxiety or anything, because it's considered weak, and because there's not really, yeah, there's
a stigma behind it. Like it's almost fucking taboo for a man to really open up about his feelings and something like that. So then, you know, it's basically taught to fucking, you know, you put up these walls and stuff, but you bury it inside, which a little fun fact, actually, in the current band I got right now, you remember, you know, the song we wrote that I ended up asking, like, hey, can I use the riff from it that, you know, we wrote together? You remember that?
I think, wait, hold on, because you wrote a lot of riffs. I'm trying to remember it. Can you describe it a little better?
It was what was the song called? Originally I think it was called Jackass, and then we changed the name to like Stalker or something like that.
Oh yeah, I remember that song. Yeah, I'll play it in the beginning of the video.
The band I got now, the riff that I used from that, little fun fact, is the song is called Buried in Cyan, and it's about basically, you know, mental health and like drug abuse and stuff, and how it's really like kind of tucked under the covers, and you know, and you fucking. And the people who really struggle with it, they bear it inside, because it's just, they feel like they can't say anything, because then it's just, you know, you get the fucking judgment for it, and which just, it doesn't help, you know? when you're not taken seriously about that, that's fucking one of the big causes of suicide, where it's like, you're trying to reach out for help, but you have this expectation where you're supposed to basically handle it and learn it yourself or something like that. Now, granted, yeah, some of the best things in, personal experience came from, personal experience, out on my own and kind of experiences with myself, like addiction, for example. Like the best way how I was able to overcome it and learn about it was to go through it, withdraw it, and basically be clean from it. It's the same thing with like alcoholism or something. I experienced it, so I know how to handle the experience, But at the same time, there's been many times where I've been glad where I had a fucking support group, and but again, that was only just really through friends or something like that, when you trust. But when it comes to the outside world, and you really don't feel like you're accepted or something like that, I mean, hey, that's what drew me to the fucking punk scene, was that you feel like you got a place there where everyone's a strong sense of unity and like brotherhood or something.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing about the punk scene, by the way, now that you mentioned that, because like we are talking about men's issues and whatnot, and so like I kind of like do this thing where I separate. I mean, there are all sorts of punks, right? But I remember in Rhode Island, like there were the PC punks, and then there were the I just really don't give a fuck about anything, like Devin type punks. Like, would you make that distinction? Like the politically correct punks who are too sensitive about everything, kind of have that like exclusive culture, and then like the real like gutter punk types who, I don't know, don't seem to. I would say that they're not as sensitive. Maybe they're like more open to, things.
Well, yeah, and that's what like bums me out about like the scene, which we were kind of talking about before the podcast started.
Yeah.
Was the fact that in the scene nowadays, it's just you can't question anything. You know what I mean? Like, like I'll be open about this. Right now is that so. At my job, like I'm vaccinated or something, I'm vaccinated now for the whole COVID thing. I got that just about a year ago when I got vaccinated. But the thing is that like, it just seemed really sketchy how fast it was kind of rushed and whatnot, and just the whole thing. So I was kind of questioning it. Yeah. I wasn't being a fucking anti-vaxxer. Like, I'm not going to get it because my kids will have autism or something. It's like, I'm pretty fucking sure. But, if I have kids, they're going to be fucking retarded little shits anyway. It's me. But, like, but the thing is like, I like to really research facts. I like to be sure about things. I like to know what I'm talking about if I'm going to talk about something. You know what I mean? Because I'm not the kind of person that would have an argument for the sake of having an argument. Because if it ends up getting an argument, it's like, all right, well, here we go. I want to actually know what I'm talking about instead of just looking like a dick right there. Not that I give a fuck, but it's just at the same time, it's like, it's more for myself where it's like, okay, I know what I'm talking about.
You want to sound
actually,
somewhat knowledgeable.
Say it and not have to like think and be like, I don't know, but like, so there's that. And, and then the whole thing about nowadays, there's the whole booster shot, and it's like, well, I don't really even want to get that, because now it's just like, I don't know fuck all about that. So that being said, and fast forward to like the Massachusetts and Rhode Island punk scene and everything, like everyone here is just, they're not questioning anything. And like, and the other thing too is then when you get like to the political punks and stuff like that, it's like, look, I'm not a fucking Trump supporter, but I'm most certainly not a Biden supporter either. I fucking hate politics, and that's what the whole like original punk thing was about. Like if you go into the '80s and you listen to bands like the Exploited or the fucking FUs or something like that, or there's another band that I found from SoCal, it's called Circle One. Yeah. They got a song called Left Right March, which is just I think the chorus goes something like fuck the left, fuck the right, and stuff like that. Or it's like, well, yeah, because everyone thinks when they see like one evil. Like I remember when I was younger, like when George W. Bush was fucking president or something like that. Like, yeah, of course I fucking identify myself as a liberal, because it's like, well, yeah, fuck this administration. There's fucking the Iraq War, and Obama got elected. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm happy for a little bit. But then you hear about shit that is not talked about in the mainstream news. About shit that's going on in like Syria and how like we're basically fucking killing innocent people with goddamn robots and stuff. And it's like, now I don't like this administration. And then honestly, that's kind of how it spawned then the fucking Trump administration. Then the Trump administration has spawned the Biden administration. And just, it keeps going back and forth and back and forth. And it's like, you can't have a middle-winged fucking, because like when you don't identify with either the extreme left or the extreme right, you're automatically like the worst fucking person. Like, you're worse than their fucking, you know, adversary, because it's like, well, okay, I agree with some of this shit that you guys say, but I also kind of disagree. And I'm like, well, then they kind of have a point, you know what I mean? You end up thinking for yourself. Right. And then I remember a nice, good little Star Wars quote. I believe it Obi-Wan said, or no, it was Anakin that said it. It's, if you're not with me, then you're my enemy. Only Sith deals in absolutes, where it's like, that's what I'm getting on fucking both sides. It's like, you know, there's shit I agree with and shit I don't agree with. But why do I have to fucking be extreme to one side? You know what I mean? Like, I've seen both sides. I mean, I remember, you know, because you know, even still to this day, like, there's, you know, like, the kind of subgenre that, or not subgenre, but like subculture that's kind of around punks are the skinheads. Yeah. And skinheads, you know, like, a lot of people automatically, when they hear skinheads, they automatically think, oh, the neo-Nazi guys. But like, the thing is too, is that that's actually not the original real skinheads. The skinheads actually started in Jamaica and England. It was what it was, which they were actually even before the punks, which was in the 60s at this point, when, you know, reggae kind of took off, was that it was black and white dudes shaving their head actually as a protest to society, basically like, we all have the same identity. It was a true sense of unity. So that's where the whole thing of what's called the sharp skinheads, which is skinheads against racial prejudicial slur, you know, formed. But, you know, it's kind of sad, because then you get the fucking, like, you know, alt-right, you know, national socialist skinheads that, you know, throw up the fucking Roman salute or whatnot. And then, you know, if you're a skinhead nowadays, you almost get looked at it like that. But it's like, oh, you know, but that's the thing too, is that, you know, you got the extreme right, you know, skinheads that believe in only, you know, it is either like, oh, you have to be like, you know, anti-gay marriage, you have to be fucking, you know, only pro-white ethno-state, you have to be, you know, this, that, and the other. And then there's but then there's the complete left side, which also has, you know, complete like liberal skinheads too, where it's just like, all right, you have to be completely, you know, pro this, pro that, or something like that. And there's, you know, but like, here, I'll give you one example, right? Hey, you know what I mean? Devin, I am completely pro gay marriage. It shouldn't matter, okay? Two people love each other, they want to get married. Who the fuck cares? Who the fuck does it fit? You know, some asshole. You know, why the fuck are you bitching about it? They're married. You know, what? You don't want to see the same. You know, you want to see two dudes arguing the same way you and your dumpy wife do? Fuck you. You know what I mean? Right. So, but at the same time, you know, which is, again, going to piss off probably the same people that believe in it, is that, like, I'm also kind of pro-gun, you know what I mean? I love firearms, something like that. And for me, like, when it came to, like, you know, researching and owning firearms, it's like, I actually was more into the historical part of it, because I would like to own, you know, old firearms that were, like, from the First or Second World War. But I would be giving shit about that and be like, oh, you know, it's fucking, no, it's a killing machine and stuff like that. It's like, no, I'm doing it A for historical, and B, yeah, for self-defense. I'm not going to go out and fucking, you know, I'm not going to, fucking A, what's the, little brain fart, what's the fucking word I'm like, abuse, basically, you know, the fucking, the right to have it.
So, Devin, I actually have to interrupt you a little bit, because remember how at the beginning of this I said we had like about 35 minutes of tape?
Oh yeah.
I think I had like 35 minutes and 30 seconds. I don't remember, but we're at like 34. I didn't know that we were gonna, because you're really getting into it, and it's great. I think people are really gonna enjoy this. But like next time, I'm gonna have to get like another memory card, because this episode's almost over.
Oh my god! Wow, is it really?
Yeah, it's been almost 35 minutes. So like, I really hate to do this to you. I don't have enough space on my memory card. We only have like, maybe not even 20 seconds. But I don't know. It's been great having you on, and like, I want to do a part 2 of this sometime later in the week if I can. But I feel a little irresponsible, because I didn't know that you were gonna really elaborate on how you feel about a lot of these social issues, and I think you got really deep, and some people are gonna have some nice takes in the comment section, and I want you to, like, you know, check it out. But yeah, like, holy shit, man,
Oh, damn, I'm sorry for ranting and raving. I thought I totally got lost in the time.
No, it's great because like I was really listening and I was really into it. But like next time I'm gonna, because everybody talks differently in a podcast, and we only like